Coming to you from the Strings and Things studio in Ventura, California, this is the Strings Unraveled podcast.
All right.
Welcome here, everyone. It's nice to be here. We are sitting in a room full of baskets brimming with yarn.
I think we did this last year, and we were in my office talking about how we were surrounded by yarn for the stash swap.
This is even way more than last year, I think.
I think so. I had to buy more baskets.
Yeah, definitely.
And
is it twice the baskets, or at least a third
probably.
more? Yeah.
It was a lot.
Last year we did have more, like, people brought it in containers, so we did have that support. Some people are getting rid of the plastic bins they were keeping it in.
Yeah.
Some people want their bags back.
But everything sat comfortably on two tables inside and the two tables outside.
And this time spilled into our cozy room.
Yeah, it's on the couches and the chairs, and we have chairs set up inside with, and that's after day 2. I think we'll consolidate a little bit more for day 2 tomorrow.
Right.
But again, I mean, people have just, it's amazing. It's the loaves and fishes. Like, people are like, oh yeah, I don't want this, and I don't want this, and I don't want this, and all kinds. It's amazing.
Yeah, this event worked out better than I think we could have expected it to work out. And it's working exactly how we thought it was going to, which is great, which is people coming. And I'm so happy when people show me things that they made with their stash swap yarn.
Katie is wearing something.
Was that from Stash Swap?
This is from Stash Swap last year. This is
wow.
This is all remnants and scraps of koi goo.
It's the Scrappy V.
I had no idea that Scrappy V was from last year's.
Yep. So I took all the scraps of koi goo I found in a big bag, and I made this t-shirt.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Was somebody else wearing something? Who else had something today that was swap? Because I heard you talking to them.
Jackie has made something in swap yarn. Nice. She didn't wear it today, but she made that beautiful vest in monos.
Oh, yes. Gorgeous.
That was stash swap yarn.
Someone took yarn inspired by something someone wore, which was Leslie wore her finished tag.
Oh, yes.
I thought it was called Tagite or something.
That's a different sweater.
Okay.
I think Tegna.
Tegna's what she was wearing.
No, it's different. Because I was looking at it. Hers
I thought it was
from the top.
Was hers.
It could be. It's got like a lace bottom and t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of Tegna, but I was looking because I thought Tegna is knitted from the bottom up, and it looked like her stitches were going the other way.
No, she went bottom up. This is It's Tegna, then.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Just having worked on it with her.
Oh, okay. I trust you.
I couldn't remember its name, so I don't know why you should trust me.
It's a Caitlin Hunter pattern.
Anyway, she was wearing that in. Another knitter found Zoe, which is what she made, and I think that Zoe went home with the inspired knitter.
Nice.
And people, if you don't know what the Great Swap Exchange or Great Stash
Exchange.
This is
Exchange or
second
Swap.
year.
This is our second time doing it. We invite people for 2 weeks before the event to bring things that they want to de-stash. This year we opened it up to books and fabric, and a few of those things trickled in, but it's all yarn, really.
It's 90% yarn.
And some needles, too, actually.
Yeah. So, things you're ready to let go of that you loved and maybe still love, and so it's a really great gift when you let go of it. You bring them in, and then we invite everyone who knows about it to come in and take whatever they want.
Yep.
We have bags. We go, bring your big bags.
No price. There's no cost.
You don't need a limit. Just
to
you
play.
Want it, take it.
You don't even have to donate to play.
Yeah. And people who give don't seem to come back much.
Right. Some people do.
Yeah. Which is what I want also. Like, okay, you let go of. Now you have room for new, you know?
And make room in your stash for something new.
And I had lots of people that they did come back because they were looking for enough for one project. They donated enough for 10 projects.
Yeah.
And they felt so happy about that because it was stuff that they're like, it's taking up space and it creates a place of guilt, and I'm letting it go, and now I feel free. I heard the word cathartic very many times. And it is. Anytime I've actually destashed, part of me says, oh, well, that's really great yarn. Yeah, but if I've had it for like 5 years and I'm not really going to do anything with it, it's not doing me any good sitting on my shelf. It could be someone else could love it and want to do something with it right away.
Absolutely. I also think people were surprised by how much good stuff there was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not all Red Heart. There is some Red Heart.
There is some.
And Red Heart does have a place in the world.
Yep. Every yarn has its place. But there is good stuff. Even after...
Yeah, there's still good stuff that I'm keep buying.
A lot going today.
There's those skeins that I think, like, if that's left after Sunday, I'll take it.
Yeah. And what we do with it after Sunday, we find a place to donate it, which we have a few directions this year. Last year we gave it to the Studio Channel Islands program. They have like a special needs and a memory care, like day camp kind of program, and we donated what was left to them. And on the news on Friday on the local radio station, I was listening to the fact that today, while we were doing the exchange, they were having like their big show of the year. So if you know about Studio Channel Islands, you should go out there and support those artists, because it gives for the special needs people. I think it's like young people. I don't know what the age range is, but they're making beautiful things with their whole hearts that they're out there selling, and it gives them independence and purpose.
That's
like
awesome.
Any artist,
right?
Always support your local artist. So it's really nice to be in this room, and like amazing things happen too. Like, someone brought bags that she had just made. Like,
she said that she was looking for some. She told me she came last year as a new knitter hoping to find a project bag because she didn't have one, and so she didn't find one because we didn't have any. But this year she brought 3 that she had made to donate as like I didn't bring anything to give, but here's a couple project bags I made to donate.
I think I snagged one.
I snagged one too.
Really excited about it.
Yeah, she was great.
So thank you.
Where are they? If there's any left, are there any more?
No, there were 3. I think Beatrice got the third one.
Sorry, Karin.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
So it's been a good weekend so far, and we have one more day to go. My husband asked me if we were doing anything special for the Super Bowl, and I was like,
I forgot that was tomorrow.
I was like, when is it? Yeah. And because we used to do Lois would host a big sale for Super Bowl Sunday. And I was like, no, when? And he's like, oh, this weekend. And I said, oh, well, the stash exchange is happening. And he's like, so you're doing that for Super Bowl Sunday? I'm like, I'm still not doing anything for Super Bowl Sunday.
I was like, when is Super Bowl? Just today, I was like, when's the Super Bowl? So this episode will come out on Monday, which means it was just yesterday for you guys. But yeah, it's tomorrow.
Which is pretty cool that because usually we're talking about things about a week away.
I have to take the computer home to edit this, so it will be done. Actually, no, I'll be here tomorrow. I'm not taking it home. Anyway. Yeah. It'll be up.
So... what are you working on, Katie?
In my hands right now. I'm sorry if I sound like a frog. I lost my voice. I talked too much today. And I also just burned the crap out of my tongue on some hot tea, so I apologize if I sound weird.
Sorry.
It's not Karen's fault.
Sort of.
You set her up for success.
Our hot water maker at work makes extremely really hot water.
I think it's 160 degrees.
I don't know I know what that feels like now.
It's hotter than drinking temperature.
It definitely was.
Apparently.
Anyway, I am in the midst of, well, I guess it's February now, right? Today's the 1st?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm doing 12 sweaters in 2020. And I have 2 finished.
20 in 2020.
I have 2 finished so far, which I will talk about in our next segment. But right now I'm working on another one. I am lucky to have so many sweaters in progress to pick up and work on that it will make my challenge much easier.
So that's the criteria, is to finish it.
Right. I don't have to start it in 2020, but I want to have 12. I want to have finished 12 sweaters this year.
That's fantastic.
Now, did you work extra hard in November, December to set yourself up for this?
No, I just decided in January that I was going to do this crazy thing. So I am working on The Weekender by Andrea Mowry, which I started last year at some point. I don't remember when. I'm still in the body. It's knitted from the bottom up.
But this is not your first weekend.
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yeah, I've not made it before.
I love your yarn combination.
Thank you. So it's written for
very beautiful.
It's written for a worsted weight yarn, and it's a pattern that I had always wanted to make, but I didn't have stash for it. But I had in my stash sweater quantities of both a fingering weight and I think they technically call this like a DK light worsted, but I think they're lying.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of yarn in that ball there.
This is Pearl Soho Good Wool.
Oh,
which I'm saying is more like a sport.
I have a little bit of that.
So the two of them combined is making the perfect gauge. One of them's kind of like a mushroomy gray brown taupey color.
That's you won a gift certificate yarn.
Yes, this is the Good Wool is my I won a gift certificate yarn.
Nice.
So this darker one is what you're calling mushroomy?
I think it's called Tree Bark. It's Stunning Strings Studio that I bought at Stitches.
It's got this dark tonal of like a warm gray.
Yeah. I would say
mushroom gray.
It looks very mushroomy to me.
I could buy that.
So I bought that at Stitches to go with like as a solid base color for a colorwork sweater, which I didn't end up making. But paired with the cream colored Good Wool, it's making a pretty marled kind of effect that I'm very happy with.
Can I touch your fabric?
Yes, it's very nice.
Can I touch it?
Oh, this fabric is lovely.
It's very soft and squishy. It'll be very cozy.
It's squishy, but it has it still feels like woolly. Like
but
it's gonna hold.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
all just wool. I mean, I think this might have a little bit of nylon in it.
It has
a
plushness to the texture.
I'm very happy with it. So this is my sweater I'm working on between other
Where'd
sweaters.
that plushiness come from? It's just the combination.
Yeah, it's just the two of them combined is working really well.
That is delightful.
Don't you love it when two yarns that you might not have thought of play well together?
Right. It just was very circumstantial that they both lived in my stash. And
we call that kismet.
Yep. I have a sweater that I think I will cast on next that I was going to intend to be my February sweater, but I've had to wait for the yarn to arrive, so it's only February 1st. So I'm sort of working on this in the meantime until that yarn arrives. But I got an email notification today that I think it shipped.
Woo!
Because I want to make a really traditional Aran pullover cable-y sweater.
Ooh.
So I found a free pattern from Patton's, I think.
That's perfect.
Called like the honeycomb Aran pullover.
Patton's has some gorgeous.
It's a beautiful. Yeah. I follow a girl on Instagram. Her handle is Books and Cables.
I love her stuff.
Okay.
I follow her.
So in her profile picture, she's wearing a white, like cream colored Aran pullover. That's the one I'm making.
There was a viral post about something like this. A guy thought he was ordering a sweater like one of the actors in Knives Out.
So
and he got a kit for I think from a Norwegian company.
So funny.
And I think that like there was a few ironies to it, but one of them is it was even a farm he worked on in his 20s. And my favorite thing in the comments that I saw was they IKEA'd your sweater.
That's because I think her name is Heidi. Books and Cables. She posted a picture when Knives Out was in the theaters, and it was like her recreating like the picture of Chris. Is it?
It's
Evans.
Magic Mike. Oh, I thought it was Magic Mike.
No, it's Chris Evans.
Okay.
It's Captain America.
Got it.
He's sitting there in his in his beautiful sweater, looking very dreamy, and she's like recreating the pose. And I think the caption is like, "Who wore it better?" It's very funny. So that's funny that you mentioned that.
That's pretty good.
All the holes in his sweater were making me crazy.
But it's like sexy.
I was so distracted.
Oh,
I wasn't paying attention
to
the scene.
I haven't seen this.
All I'm looking at is going, I want to fix that. Where's my tapestry needle and my yarn? How can someone so rich have something so ratty?
I made it go.
And yes, he does wear it very well.
Yes.
I get it now. I get it.
I wasn't so distracted that I wasn't paying attention to
I
the
saw
wearer.
the picture of Chris Evans. I just didn't understand that it was him.
Yep.
Captain Dreamy.
Captain Eyes Too Close Together was what I was going to say.
Okay, this has nothing to do with anything, but have you seen, there's a commercial right now for, I think it's a Nissan? No.
Oh, Park the Car?
Yes, I love
it. It's the only commercial I've seen for the Super Bowl.
Just
it's
thinking,
Chris Evans, Rachel Dratch,
and John Krasinski. It's so funny.
Hey, Rachel, he's going to park the car.
He can't park it yet. He's like, it's got smart park. Oh my god.
Hey, you can't park
so
there.
funny. He's like, quit, what does he say? Quit being a bonehead or something. Anyway,
I haven't seen it.
You'll see it. It's the
I
only
will.
like YouTube video that comes up that I don't skip because I love it so much.
I saw it as a link.
Chris Evans is in it. That's why I'm saying that.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Okay,
That has everything
It's
to
got
do with
Smart Pack.
has everything to do with everything.
Oh, it's so good.
It's the best thing I saw all week, honestly.
It's really funny. Anyway,
Um,
so I'm working on a weekender sweater.
nice. Congratulations on your weekender sweater.
I'm
And
working
do
on other
remember
things,
Books and
but-
Cable because she is wonderful to follow.
Oh, she posts beautiful pictures.
Karen.
What are you working on, Karin?
I've just finished something. Yoo-hoo!
We can't talk about it until
yeah,
finished.
then we don't care.
Okay.
We
What
don't
else?
care.
Okay.
What else are you working on?
Well, I've been working on design work. I was working on some samples for a class for a fable fur, which is a wonderful faux fur. Sometimes you get faux fur and it just looks pretty, but then it's scratchy. And this stuff is really, really nice. It's from Knit Picks. I'm working on a quilt. A quilt as you go quilt. It's called Quilt as you go hexagon quilt. And then you make these little hexagon quilted sandwich, little sandwiches, and they
It looks like a very fun project.
it is fun because each hexagon is quilted. You don't actually quilt it. It's its own little pita pocket of
That's
fabric.
a perfect way to describe it because that's what it is.
It's a pita pocket. And the pattern is I got it from Missouri Star Quilt Company, but it's the Daisy and Grace I think is the design team that put it together. It's something you can hand stitch, or if you're like me and I just want to machine stitch the heck out of them. And it's
I could see how it would be a good take-along project, though. If
Yeah.
you wanted to do some,
Yeah, you
if
could-
you weren't a knitter but wanted to bring a little quilting project along or something.
It's a great travel
That would
type
be
project because they only the little pieces are small enough that you can pack them in. I packed them, a bunch of them, not all of them, but I packed a bunch of them in just like a portable lunchbox kind of thing.
Pack a peck of
Pita pockets?
Pita pocket quilt. No, that doesn't work.
I know.
The thing that my adaptation.
She packed a peck though.
Pita pockets.
Are we still on Chris Evans? Wrong pecs. Wrong
Anyway,
pecs. Okay.
yeah.
I digress.
Yes, you did.
My adaptation though
needed.
is I'm making it a weighted quilt. When they're put together, like you just do a regular machine stitch around, I leave one side open so I can fill them a little bit with little tiny microglass beads, and then you zigzag them together. Or you can hand stitch them together. It could be either or. And I'm making a weighted blanket. So it's
gorgeous.
I'm
very
making
soft.
intentionally out of flannel, because when someone's stressed, it's nice to have something tactile of comfort, and so that's what flannel to me does. Someone asked me today, did you actually wash this? Have you test washed this? I go, no, I did not, because I wasn't going to wash the backing pieces if I'm not washing the top pieces, which are pre-cuts. I used pre-cuts, so because you want them to wash together the same. Anyway, so that's that, and I'm working on a couple sweaters of my own design.
Cool.
One, I'm redoing a sample in a really wonderful yarn called Knit, Craft, and Knittery. I think I talked about their yarn last time, but it came in, and now I'm working on a new sample for that. And just finishing up a couple of projects. I talked about I was going to publish more.
Yes.
By the end of February, we'll have 3 things published.
Woo! That's awesome.
I got two things that were previous that were not done that I've had resized. Sent them to my tech editor, and she was able to edit quickly, and then I paid her to add some more sizes. So each one will have 9 sizes.
Wow.
They'll go from like 30, 32 to 64, 66. Cool. So everybody can be included. So
that's awesome. What are you working on, Anne?
I am distracting myself from anything else I could be doing, and I took some yarn from the stash because someone asked, like, "Ooh, can I use this to make bleachable dishcloths?" And I got thinking about how sometimes our sponge gets stinky here. and how
I just
pretty,
threw out our sponge.
how pretty it would be to do the baker's twine.
It's a washcloth.
Washcloth. It's been on the front page of Ravelry for several weeks, and it still is as of today. And it's
it was in that blog post about things that people made more than once on the homepage.
Yeah. And it's just
often.
the cutest thing. I liked it the moment I saw it, but who's going to take time? I'm not one to take time to make dishcloths, usually. But it's really, really, really cute, and there's really pretty white cotton blends and pretty other thin, gorgeous cottons. So I've taken a small sampling from what there is here to make a few for our restroom to use as dishcloths.
I like it.
And maybe I'll get some
hooks. Little hang-up hooks.
Yeah. And they'll look really cute in there.
Don't buy any because I think I might have some of those like command hook things.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I think I have some.
Well, that's good because then sometimes when the sponge is put behind the faucet, it encourages like the caulking to start getting ugly.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I'm like,
I don't think it's much worse than it always was.
I scrubbed it as much as I could, but it didn't help that much.
We'll have to
we're not picking on your housekeeping, Katie.
Nope.
I just cleaned the bathroom.
I know. The bathroom, actually, I went into the bathroom the other day and it was like, it smells so fresh in here.
I put a new air freshener in it.
Yeah.
That one that's plugged in?
Yeah.
Oh, and if you haven't visited us in a while, if you ever have a question like, do you guys have a bathroom? I get that a lot. Now there'll be no doubt. Because,
yes, oh my goodness.
Katie, where did we get that?
My cousin Claire, who is a vintage collector, curator, sent me a text with a picture of this little needlepoint. It might be cross-stitch, I don't remember, I didn't look that close. Picture of a little sheep, and it says bathroom.
It's really
so
cute.
She said, do you need this? And I said, yes, please.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
so I hung it up.
Claire. And I am also working on a lot of other things, of course. So I am swatching, and today marks the beginning of Mason Dixon Knitting doing their February knit along called they're calling it Bang Out a Sweater in February, and it's the shortest month of the year. Come make a sweater with us.
Wow.
And I've always loved their stuff, and I particularly love how like they have kept their brand fresh and most particularly how like what they're doing now. So they are leading people through Main Squeeze cardigan, and I have some Noro from last year from the swap, and then I also picked up something else gorgeous. It's Blue Sky Alpaca, 50 Merino and 50 Alpaca, in like a taupe color. And I actually haven't measured this yet. Has anyone got a measuring tape handy? I don't see one. But anyway, I haven't blocked my swatches yet. So I've made big swatches. These are hopefully 12 by 8-ish.
I'm a big believer in big swatches.
Well, so they had this post about it. It was either Thursday or Friday. And the author, I can't remember if it was Anne or Kay, talked about this theory that they have an even more in-depth blog by Jill Moreno that I'm going to go back and read. This is something that we all play with, and I particularly know that I exploit it a lot. It's called grist. Have you heard of that? So grist is like the amount of yardage you get for a particular size yarn in the weight. So it's like yardage per ounce. So you could get the pattern calls for Rowan Big Wool, which is like 88 yards per 100 grams.
Right.
And the author of this one, she wanted to use a neighborhood fiber company that was like 150 yards to 100 grams. So you imagine there's like a big size difference.
Yeah.
But she was able to get gauge.
Right.
And so because of the difference in the grist, she's going to have a lighter weight sweater.
Right. That makes sense.
And so I am also hoping to exploit grist because this Noro, what do you think the fat Noro?
Is that Fiercode?
That might be right because it's
does it have a cotton blend?
It's a cotton blend one.
Okay. It's not Tayo. No,
it's not Tayo because it's the chunky
Fiercode
one.
is the chunky. Yeah.
And I love it. It's like red and turquoise and black and navy and green. Love it. It's one of my all-time favorite
bright
combos.
red.
It's a very Anne colorway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I made a swatch that's 8 by 12 because, again, that was pointed out in this blog post. That's a good thing to do. I'm going to block it. I'm going to see how it is. I'm pretty sure I'm on gauge, actually, just eyeballing, because that's the best way to measure gauge.
Yeah, I was going to say, how accurate is your eyeball?
Scientific.
The best.
Okay.
So somebody at the table today during drop-in was like, oh, if you could see the face Karen's making at me, disbelief would describe it politely.
If I could roll my eyes, they would hit the ceiling.
So someone at the table at drop-in today said, my goodness, that's a big swatch. And I said, you know, it's actually only 34 stitches by
it's just big
28 rows. The gauge I'm going for is 10 stitches to 4 inches and 14 rows in 4 inches. So it's really a normal size
It's
swatch.
Proportionally large.
Yeah. But it's only 34 stitches. But they're both so lovely.
Bang out 2 sweaters this month.
Yeah.
What size needles are they?
13.
You like to bang.
I like
That's
to
what
bang.
I got.
That's what she said.
I said what I meant. I meant what I said. So,
You knit 2 sweaters
I'm clearly
on size
only right
13s?
on one of them because
One of the 2
there's
is right.
about an inch difference as I
What is
lay
the
them
name
on
of
top
that
of each
pattern?
other. Main Squeeze Cardigan.
I don't know if I know that one.
It's in a booklet. It's the Big Joy booklet. So they've like compiled all these kind of small collections of maybe half a dozen patterns with a certain theme.
It's so cute.
It's very cute. It has pockets, like it's a patch pocket. I thought it was a seed stitch body, and I felt all like really clever. Like, I'll just make my swatch before I buy it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not.
It's
not
like
seed
a
stitch.
garter seed kind of thing, right?
They're calling it sand stitch, but yeah, it is. It's a
really
broken.
cute.
I call it a broken rib. Here's the back side of it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the knit columns.
Can I feel
really
that?
Clear. Yeah, it's very nice.
Oh, yeah.
She is currently touching the blue sky alpaca.
I think when you blocked it, it would be like, ooh. Like, as soon as this gets wet, it's going to flip up.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Make it in both, but make it in this.
Yes. Definitely the blue sky alpaca is happening. Whether or not I just need to change my needle size. But, I mean, actually.
It's alpaca. It'll grow.
Yeah. So, anyway, blocking, you got to do it. And if you're brave enough to make a bigger swatch, just do it. But this swatch is large, but don't be impressed. 34 stitches.
Yeah.
And so I said I'm aiming for 10 stitches in 4 inches, and you may ask why I have 34, because I like to put a garter ridge on either side as I go up, and I keep the first 2 and the last 2 always and forever in garter stitch, so that it just lays flat for me straight out, and I don't have trouble finding where my edges are.
Doesn't that add up to 14 stitches?
It's 3 sets, 34.
3 sets.
I made it bigger. I'm making like a 12-inch swatch.
Right.
Plus 4.
Okay.
Because
you said the reason it's 34 is because you added 4 stitches.
To the total.
Got it.
Yes. Thank you, because I'm not a good communicator lately. This is proving really true a lot. The other thing I'm swatching for, I have not officially compiled my Make 9. I mean, I have the list, but I would like to make the pretty grid and put it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So I was joking with someone. I said, it's not on my Instagram yet, so it's not really true yet.
Right. You haven't put it into the universe yet.
Yeah. So I am getting ready to make my Pearl Soho top down something like shawl collared cardigan. I think that's the name.
They need better names.
Yeah. It's a big shawl collar. It's like a crew neck with a shawl collar, so
but
it's a
their
pretty
names
high.
tell you what they are.
Yes.
It is what it is.
It's not very memorable, though.
No. I'm calling it my Pearl Soho sweater, which isn't going to help anyone else in the world find it, but I know what it is. So I'm
Are those 2 different colorways? Or
yes, they are.
But they
so we'll talk more about my colors of yarn, but I'm swatching in this.
I want a Bang It Out sweater.
This isn't Bang It Out.
No, but I want something I can just bang out.
Well, make a Bang Out sweater too. There might be something here in the exchange still.
Got
there was this
How
blue
many yards
yarn
do you
that should
need?
have gone. Yards?
I guess I could just look it up.
It's like for the size I'm going to make, which I think I'm going for the 45 or the 47. It's 11 balls of I'm going between the 11 and the 12 ball requirement. So 88 yards times 11.
I took some stuff out of the stash swap that maybe I'm thinking might work.
Well, hey, maybe we could all bang together. I mean, bang it out together?
I don't know if that's
that
better.
got worse.
Oh,
We're walking away. We're quietly
No,
walking away.
I'm going to work it out
Tiptoeing.
until it's worse.
Karen's uncomfortable.
So
It didn't take much.
I've swatched for my Pearl Soho sweater, which my grand plan is I have this pretty yarn and I'm going, like, it's a natural color yarn and I want to find the right dye, color palette and execution, and I think I found it. So I've got my swatches for that affirm that I'm on the right path. I'm still working on Alexander's sweater.
Right there.
Oh, that would be a good fit.
Diet.
I don't know if it'll get gauge. It says 14.
Well, but it's
But
fluffy.
how much do you need?
Katie's also looking at like a cream alpaca.
I'm trying to see how many I have. 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
Keep
Hold
it
on, I'm
natural
doing
or
some-
diet?
I think I might keep it
131.
natural. It's 131.
Yeah, you have 131 per.
So that means I need 9. Okay, so no, I don't have enough. Never mind.
You can make it shorter.
Yeah.
Also,
I got too many other
haven't-
sweaters
No,
to
I
make
understand. I haven't looked at someone did it as a pullover too. So
Oh, yeah.
you might look at that if anything about this appealed to you. It's on their blog. So I'm getting ready to start this big Pearl Soho sweater that is among my make 9s, and I've got my swatch done for it. There's a lot of steps before I start it, which I will talk about more later. Okay.
Cool.
Washcloth and swatches. That's me.
So what have you finished? Hey,
Yeah.
Karin, what'd you finish?
Oh, what's
I
that,
literally
Karin?
just finished. Like,
Oh, that button.
and that great button.
That
I
is
just happen to have
fantastic.
that in my button stash.
It's gorgeous.
I'm designing a cowl for the Super Nerdy Yarn Club for the Yarn Over truck.
It is going to be published. This is published tomorrow. Can you talk about that?
Like the colorway, or is it still secret?
Can you talk about the thing,
The thing I can talk about the thing.
not the color?
It's a secret colorway
Well,
based on a
it's a-
secret character.
Well, can I tell what the character is? No, maybe.
I don't know. Have
No,
they
I don't
released
know.
that information?
It's a secret character from a really great movie.
Karen's working on a secret thing that she finished, and it's super beautiful, and we can see it, and you can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I will say, it's got sparkles.
Yeah.
It's got like
It's
gold
a crocheted cowl.
It's a crocheted cowl.
There you go.
It starts
gorgeous.
with a really pretty motif, and then it's worked out from either side.
It
like
looks super fun.
you take the square motif and you turn it on so it's like a diamond
On
shape
point.
on point, and then you work like the chevron pattern, and it's got puffs and half double crochet and all kinds of fun stuff. And it goes out to one side. It's a one skein cowl, and I had to make sure it all works with one. And then the points of the chevron come together and are joined by this really pretty metallic coppery.
yeah, it's this gorgeous, like,
I'm like a
kind
bronze.
of rustic hewn bronze color.
It looks to me like when you do archaeological digs and they find like old Bronze Age coins or from
Yeah.
the Roman times, only made into a button, and that's what joins. That's the thing that
It's
will
like
join.
the perfect button for it.
It is absolutely.
And I bought this button like 6 years ago. It had nothing to do with this. It just lucked out that I had button stash.
I was just telling someone today, sometimes, probably applies to buttons, yarn just has to live in your stash for a while before it knows what it wants to be.
Yeah.
So that button had to live its time in your stash before it was what it wanted
What's
to be.
odd is I had 4, and I almost never buy an even number of buttons.
Well, now you have the perfect number for something else.
Exactly. Now I've got 3 for something else, and it's like an inch wide button, so it's perfect in proportion.
Yeah, and it's not heavy
No,
for being metal.
for it being metal, is it fully metal?
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's just
nice
very
and
light. I mean, it could be plastic coated with metal. I don't know.
It looks bronzy and beautiful.
If I buy
She's
it,
biting it.
yeah, it's metal. My dentist will.
Her tooth cracked. It's metal.
And it's kind of square-ish. It's kind of square, but the corners are
It's a
rounded, so it's kind
It's
of
a
perfect.
squircle.
It's
a
a
squirrel.
what?
Squircle.
A squircle.
A square-ish circle is a
Yes,
squircle.
it is a squircle.
It's a squircle.
There's also squovels. That's a squared oval.
Yeah, this is definitely a squircle.
That's a squircle.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so much easier to say.
Yeah, I know.
But the squircle kind of matches the squircle of the motif.
Sure.
So I'm kind of loving it. Yeah, it's got the star. So yeah, you know, sometimes when you're doing design work, we all look at the same kind of stitch dictionaries. And I will say, sometimes you get a yarn that you love, and you
know right away what it should be.
Well, you think you know right away, and then when you try to make it that thing, you go, no, it doesn't play well with this. And you may have to make that yarn be multiple things before it becomes the thing it's meant to be.
Yeah.
That was this yarn. I have had this yarn for 6 months, and
I love that colorway.
And it has totally stumped me. It's my first crochet pattern.
I have yarn like that in my stash that I also need to design something
But I
for.
wanted to do something in crochet that was...
It's not your first crochet pattern.
It's my first crochet pattern.
No.
What other crochet thing have I done?
From our
Didn't we have
Yarn
something
Over
from
Track, promotion.
What was that?
No, that I did a knit.
We each did each.
Yes, sir. We did do it. We did do a crochet.
What did you crochet, Karin?
I crocheted. Well, I'm big on cowls, so there you go. I did crochet a cowl.
It was so cool.
That cowl was okay. That cowl was in the round. This one's done flat and joined.
It's your second crochet pattern.
It's my second crochet pattern.
Let's count together.
It's going to be my third, though, because one of the things I'm publishing this month is I made a Fable Fur cowl pattern that is a knit version and a crochet version. If you haven't looked at Fable Fur, it's on Knit Picks, and it comes with different colorways, and it looks like real fur, but it's polyester.
There's a yarn from Lion Brand called Go for Faux, and it is in the same vein where you knit it up and it looks like faux fur. It's super soft, and I bought a skein of it thinking I wanted to test it to see if I could make like a throw out of it, because it matched the colors in my bedroom. It was like this pretty pink color, but it was going to be too expensive to do as a throw. But I knitted a hat for my niece out of it, and it's like super fuzzy, light pink. My 4-year-old niece, is like her favorite thing in the world, and every time I see her, she's like, "Thank you so much for my hat, Aunt Katie. I love my fuzzy hat." But it's like, I want my own hat out of that yarn. It's so soft, but it reminds me of that same yarn.
Well, okay, this stuff is like only $5 a yarn, $5 a ball. The crochet one takes 3 balls.
Are they 50-gram skeins?
I think so. They but it's so furry, it's hard to feel or see your stitches. So I pair it with a sport weight yarn, because that sport weight gives me just enough texture
So
that my fingers can feel the stitches and where to go with it better. But I will say, the crocheted version of it, I did, and then I ripped out, and I did, and I ripped out, and you cannot, it doesn't look like it's been ripped out like multiple times. It really,
you can't see the stitch definition at all, so.
No, but you know, sometimes you get like chenille type yarns that you can some of the super fuzzy yarns you work with once, and if you make a mistake, it'll forgive you ripping it out once, maybe. But after that, it starts looking rather tired and haggard. That is not this. This is very forgiving for ripping out, and easy to rip out. It doesn't catch on itself because it's polyester.
Slippery, yeah.
It's kind of slippery. That's cool. Pretty much what I finished. My samples since last time. I don't think I had a couple sweaters that I don't know if
you
I
were
finished. I
finishing the
Astragal.
You were working on it last time we recorded.
Oh yeah, so Astragal's finished. I wish I could wear it.
I know, isn't it sad you finish a sweater and you leave it here?
But you know, you think after all
this
these
week anyway.
80 degrees, it's crazy. Give me back. 80, and it was 80 yesterday. It was way too high.
Yeah, it's been warm.
Give me back the cold weather. It's only
coming back tomorrow.
Yay!
Your wish is my command.
Tomorrow
you shall have
your magic.
A 58-degree day.
Your magic. Of course, by the time we get this, it'll already be hot again. But
nope. Monday.
I'm looking at our forecast right now.
Overcast and 59.
Ooh.
Well, this thing that I designed, I want to make 2 more of them because it was actually really fun to put together.
It would be fun to see what it looked like in like a solid or a semi-solid.
That's what I feel like. I feel like it's got so much texture, but in this multicolored yarn, which that's all I'm going to say, I feel like some of the texture gets lost a little bit. But someone made the comment that even though it's multi-textured, it doesn't pool in a really unfortunate way. But I think the puff, when you add like a puff stitch that takes up so much yarn, it breaks up any chance of bad pooling. So
That's an interesting observation.
It's cool.
Yep.
Yep.
So I just don't know how.
Are you working on anything else?
If I don't want to wear it this way.
Or have you finished anything else? Sorry.
If I finished, I don't know. I finish things, then I move on, and then I stop thinking about them.
You need to keep a running list for next time.
Write down everything you finish.
Yes.
Yep.
And you just said a lot of things.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Did I?
2 cows, 3 cows.
You finished the sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work on the weighted blanket thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not finished, but that is a lot.
Finishing is not the only thing that matters.
It's like class samples. They have to be done. The schedule's out.
Yeah.
And I got to be working on the next set. But
yeah.
But to that, have you ever gone through your old
That's
projects?
what I did this time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in I was looking for something in my closet. I found an old sample of a scarf. I'm like, oh, that was a lot of fun, and it still had the tags from when we taught it at Anacapa. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to teach this next time. Like, hold on to that tag. There you go.
So I also finished a class sample. What I was working on last week is last time we recorded, the garden cardi, which is the crocheted cardigan.
It turned out really
I love
cute.
it. It's not as long as I thought it was going to be, but I think I can contribute that one to my yarn choice. But I do really, really like it. It is.
It looks really good on you. When you
thank
the
you.
pictures that you did Claire take those pictures?
No, I did.
Oh, but you were. I thought
I have a tripod and a
What?
self-timer.
Tell me what
They
this
were
thing
really
is.
well done.
Thank
I
you.
thought maybe Claire took those
No,
pictures.
I took those all by myself.
The setting was perfect.
It was in front of my closet doors. I'm letting you in on all my
think-
secrets.
no,
She's
was
talking
outside.
about your other that you're probably
That's a
next
different
thing
sweater.
you're going to talk about.
And that was James as my photographer.
James, you did a great job.
He doesn't listen to this. So the garden cardi is the crocheted cardigan I was working on last time. It is crocheted in Karin cotton cakes. And I really, really liked the yarn and I would use it again. The only beef I have with that yarn is it comes in boring colors.
Yes.
It's kind of like, they're all self-striping and they're all kind of like baby blanket colors.
Yes.
I think the one that I picked had like the most unexpected colorway because it's kind of like peaches and kind of like an olivey drab greeny tan and like a taupey kind of color. It was called like sands or something, I don't remember, but all the other colors are kind of babyish. And when I was looking up that yarn, they made it's a Karin brand. It was like they made it like a couple years ago and it came in solids and then they discontinued it and then they like reintroduced it as a cake.
Okay.
So now they're all stripes, which is like, I think they should bring back the solids because I would really like it in a solid.
So Karin, if you're listening.
Caron.
Yeah. Karin.
Caron. Make that yarn in solids, please.
Yeah, because actually it feels great.
Yeah.
And
it was
at
10. Oh, go ahead.
I was at my favorite yarn shop Tuesday morning. They have quite a few. And
do they?
Nah.
Yeah. None of the color. Because I was like, I should buy another sweater's worth when it was on sale. Because it's $10 a ball. And I needed 3 to crochet a sweater. So I'm assuming 3 would be plenty for a knitted sweater. And they were buy 2 get 1 free. So it was like $20 for the yarn for the sweater.
That's very good.
And so I wish that they had more exciting colors because I would buy more of it. But yeah, it was a fun project. It took longer than I expected it to because I was like, it's crocheted, it'll be done fast. And it was like, why is this taking so long? Because it's a whole sweater. That's why it took so long.
It's not a cowl.
No.
Or,
I had bad expectations going into that project.
yeah.
The other...
I do that with crochet all the time.
Yeah, you're like, I'll bang this out real quick.
Yeah.
The other so I finished 2 sweaters. The other one was my Rainbow in the Storm. And
that
was photographed.
that was the one that I took the
in a
pictures of
beautiful
when we were
setting.
camping.
Maybe that was the one I was looking at.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Because it was an outdoor beautiful setting. I knew
Yes.
you were like up in Independence.
No, we were at
No?
You'll get it right sometime.
we were at Lopez Lake
You were out,
in
outdoors. I don't know. Outdoors is all the same to me.
we were
There's
camping.
indoors and outdoors. There's only 2 places in the world.
Yeah. Only 2. All of outside is just outside.
Exactly.
And I'm inside now. Karin feels at home everywhere she is because she's inside.
So if you're inside too, you're in the same place.
We're all together, unless you're listening to this outside.
Then you're apart.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, okay, my sweater. That one I started, I looked in like September of last year, because I was working on it when we did our little road trip.
Yes, and you got your perfect red.
And I got the perfect red at Pearl Soho. So that is the black background with the rainbow stripes, and I love it. It needs to be blocked, because then once it's blocked, it'll be perfect. The neckline needs to open up a little bit, and it needs to be just like a touch longer, which it'll grow when I block it. But it is lovely and soft and squishy, and it makes me very happy. It was like a labor of love, because that was so much freaking 1x1 ribbing. But I'm very proud of myself that I did it.
I think you're a better human being than me for a lot of reasons, but that sweater it embodied. Like, it wasn't.
Flesh. It's like when you knit like a regular sweater, and you got to do like 2 inches of 1x1 ribbing at the bottom. It sucks,
the worst.
Right? But going into the sweater knowing that it was going to be all 1x1 ribbing, I was sort of resigned to the fact, so it didn't suck that bad. You know, I was.
Right now? We have to talk about that.
It was.
Nobody knows what you're talking about. Cause...
Okay, sorry, I'm talking about more secrets, and secrets are bad. And I'm sorry, my friends who are listening. Okay, so your rainbow sweater is very beautiful.
Thank you. The yarn I used for the background is that Wool Like by, I think it's a Loops and Threads yarn.
I really like that yarn.
Okay, here's what I'll say about it.
That's fine.
Somebody on Instagram had made it with that yarn as their background color.
Yes.
This girl I follow, and she had made 3 of them. And I was like, hey, how do you like, because it's like the cheapest yarn in the world.
Yes, and it
feels very nice.
Yeah.
And I said, how do you like the yarn? How's it hold up? And she's like, I love it. It's super soft. I used it 3 times. And I was like, if she used it 3 times for a sweater, it's got to be good, right?
Yeah.
I was going to bring my sample, but I forgot it at home. So I used it at the bottom for the hem. It's like 3 inches of just straight black. And that was 2 strands of the Wool Like held together. And then you blend the black with your contrasting colors. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the black for the collar and for the sleeves. And by the time I got to the collar, the bottom of my sweater was like super pilled and really fuzzy.
Wow.
And it looked a mess. And it's like just from me taking it in and out of my bag and stuff. So I was really concerned that for the sleeves, that was just going to look terrible over time. They were going to look pilled and messy and not great.
Yeah.
So I replaced, because it's 2 strands of the black held together. So I replaced 1 strand of the black with Patton's Croy, which is like a real basic nylon blend sock yarn
that will hold up.
Right.
Too.
And it was like the exact same black. So it's a strand of the Wool Like plus a strand of the Croy for the neckline and for the sleeves.
Okay, that's really important to know, because I want to do a self-drafted, self-designed, whatever, crocheted sweater in that yarn.
I wouldn't say I recommend it. It is very soft. It'd be great for like baby stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't recommend it.
I mean, the girl who made the bags was wearing a sweater in
beautiful
that.
sweater.
So gorgeous.
I wanted to ask her if she had just finished it because it wasn't pilled.
I know.
But it looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just the black color. I don't know.
Sweater.
A fresh baked sweater.
At some point, I have this vision that maybe I'll go back and like cut the hem out and replace it. But I really don't think I'm going to.
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah. I could. Maybe.
Could. It's a solution that's out there.
So I don't recommend the yarn necessarily, but
that's fair. But it is very cheap, very inexpensive.
It's super cheap.
You
get like 600 yards in a skein.
Yeah.
And they're like $4 a skein, if that, and on sale.
Well, those are all the things you finished.
Yes.
Any little things?
I don't think so.
Well, you sewed something really cool.
What did I sew?
Karen's present in 2 bags.
Yes.
What did I do? Oh, yeah.
I love that.
I forgot about that.
I didn't see the.
You saw her post, her Instagram post, right?
I tagged you.
Karen's going to be seeing something amazing Kaity made. So Karin
I haven't been on Instagram like hardly at all this week.
Karin gave very nice Christmas presents, and among them was the
wax canvas. I mean the waxed fabric for the fabric.
No, wait for it, Karin. She collects this. You can tell us about your collecting this fabric.
Great.
So this is a printed calendar You
a
talk
towel,
about
right?
it.
I like how you. Okay, so it's a tea towel,
Thank
which
you.
is basically a fat quarter made. This one is made from linen not was it canvas or something?
It feels like a lightish canvas.
like a light canvas, but it's a linen blend.
Okay.
Because then it holds up really well. But I love how you made this into a bag.
So I looked at that panel, and at the exact halfway
little
point,
tabs.
it changes from like the floral design at the top to the calendar at the bottom. It was like right in the middle.
Perfect.
So I chopped it right in half, and I squared it up, and I turned it into a big zipper pouch.
Yeah.
This is now I saw this yesterday. You had it laid out. Was it yesterday or early
That's
in the
my
week?
other tea towel.
Oh,
Because I was
okay.
looking at that one. The calendar starts farther up, like maybe 2/3 of the way up the tea towel, rather than right in the middle.
Okay, I have. If you want to swap that out, I have extras that because they came with 4.
Yeah.
And I gave 2, and I made one for Mom, so I do have one other.
Oh no, it's okay. I like the other one. I want to use it for something, but it wouldn't work for this.
Okay.
Because it was like
super clever. What a
when you chopped it in
great
half,
idea.
it was exactly half.
What a super great
Probably
idea.
gonna copy you in
And this
some
is
fashion.
like, and it says 2020, so it's got the year. If you've got your bag and you always ever know what you got the calendar on one side.
if you're
But even
carrying
the
your
floral is gorgeous,
I
and
know, I
it's a
love the way
really
it
good
turned out.
size.
if you're carrying your 12 sweaters in 12 months in this new bag with calendar on it, I think
Right? I
that's
should mark them off.
Okay.
appropriate.
So
It's
you
holding the yarn for this sweater.
So you know what's really cool about your two? You've got little tabs on both sides.
Yeah.
You can add a strap
Yeah. That's why it's there.
because
She's a thinker.
she's
Or like a wrist strap or something, a carrying strap.
yeah,
it's
it's
just a
it's
flat
kind
zippered
of big
pouch.
for a wrist though.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, this is wow, what a great idea, and I love
You can
what
copy
you
me.
did. Thank you. I am totally gonna copy that.
Yeah, it was. It just came to me because I didn't get a new sewing machine. I
Let's see what
got
the lining is.
like a mustardy
Perfect.
yellow.
It's perfect though because it picks up just a little bit of the
Yeah, I love that
mustardy
little bee
accents.
right there. He's very cute.
The bee and the butterfly, and you got the little dandelion down here.
It's beautiful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's beauty.
I have a sewing machine that I loved that was not acting right, and I kept emailing customer support, and they kept giving me solutions, and nothing worked. Finally, they're like, "We're just going to replace your machine."
Okay, but that's
So I finally got my replacement. This was my first project with it to
But
see
did you
how it would work.
did you come up with this idea?
Yes.
You need to. Okay, this needs to be a thing. A tea towel project bag.
I don't know if it would work. You have to find one that, like, if you cut, like, this just happened to be exactly the halfway point was the perfect place to cut it in
okay,
half.
so I got the tea towels off of Spoonflower.
Right.
A couple times a year, they have their fat quarter sale where you get 2 fat quarters for the price of 1. However, if you get a yard of this fabric, you're basically getting 4 for the price of 2. You're getting twice as much. You get 4 for the price of 2. Since you have to buy one, get one free or whatever.
Right.
You posted about it at some point. And
Yeah.
It made sense.
Yeah.
So that's
But
the
that's
other thing
a-
I finished.
yep.
A little zipper pouch. Well, not a little zipper pouch.
It's
a big
pretty
zipper
big.
pouch.
Yeah. What is it? It's like,
I think this is a 14-inch zipper, so it's
Yeah.
maybe 14 by 12 or something.
yeah, it's a nice size.
It's like a good small sweater size.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got all the yarn for this sweater holding it.
Yay.
So what did you finish, Anne?
I finished 2 Up Early hats those are by Martin Up North, and it's a really cute mosaic crocheted hat, and I am on my 3rd one. That's a what am I working on, but I'm kind of like putting it aside because I'm a little bored of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I finished just now was the Betangled cowl. It's a cowl that is got 3 reversible cables in a field of garter stitch. You start with ribbing and put buttonholes in it, and then the pattern's written for 3 lengths. You can either do 5 repeats of the pattern, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be
A snug
a pretty
cowl.
snug cowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had enough yarn to do, because you do a lot of edging, 7 repeats, and so that'll be much more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do buttons to close it up.
It's cute.
And I want my yarn is
Are the buttons sewn through so they're permanent, or are there buttonholes?
there's buttonholes. You start with ribbing with buttonholes in it.
Do you actually ever unbutton it
No. So you could sew it closed, but
You could just sew it through the layers.
But you could unbutton it because, like, if you want it to kind of be open on your shoulder, depending on how it fits you.
Or you might want to just do the first couple and let it kind of tuck in or something.
It's cute.
Yeah.
What is this beautiful yarn?
It's something that I dyed, and I was really excited because it's almost, if you would like to come along, even though you can't see, imagine the color teal feather from Malabrigo.
But it's got
a little richer.
But more.
And I speckled it with a reddish orange.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
Is this the last thing that you finished? Should we just start talking about our topic?
Is it the last thing I finished? Hold on.
Before you do that, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to sew on a button. Do you prefer to sew a button onto your knits with the yarn or with thread?
Thread. I tried it with yarn and I don't like it with yarn.
I do. Well, with this, it's a shank button, so you're not going to see it.
But it does. Okay, but the thing is, when you do it with yarn, you need a needle that is big enough for the yarn, but also small enough to get through the shank.
Here, you're going to go through that one time.
Just
with that needle.
No. I usually use the yarn, but it depends on the project.
Now I feel challenged.
It's interesting because, like you were saying, with a shank, you were like offhandedly, it doesn't matter because you won't see it. I tried it on a sweater and it wasn't sturdy, and so I was like off-put by that.
I think I've only ever used yarn.
Really? So I do try to be careful about matching my thread color to either the button or the sweater. But I just realized I could sew it on with sewing thread, and you could do a finish.
Oh, cover it with yarn?
Yarn, because I think it looks really pretty when it's the yarn.
When it matches. You totally could do that.
I hate sewing buttons back on, so I am a very thorough button stitcher. It's not the last thing that I finished, so I'm going to stop talking about my cowl for a minute.
Okay.
Because I want to tell you guys a quick story. My poor husband, who's a wonderful husband, started calling himself the worst husband ever because on Monday he said, "Anne, there's a baby shower at work on Thursday." I was like, "Okay, that's better notice than the last time." Okay.
He kind of does this to you,
Yeah,
doesn't he?
Yeah. And so
he's the worst husband ever.
The worst husband ever. That's Kevin. So I said, "Oh, okay, fine." And noted that I needed to start on a baby hat on Tuesday because the timing on Monday I wasn't going to start that day. So I was going to start the baby hat on Tuesday, finish on Wednesday. It's plenty of time to make knitted or crocheted baby hat if you choose the yarn and pattern correctly. So on Tuesday during the day, he texted me in the middle of the workday and said, "I'm the worst husband ever." I was like, "No, you're not, but why do you think so?" And he says, "Because the baby shower is actually tomorrow."
On Wednesday instead of Thursday.
And I was like...
He has a lot of confidence in your abilities
so what I
and your
answered
patience.
Was, I'm trying to decide how this information actually affects me. And then I didn't say anything else. And then I came here and taught a class, so he didn't see me. He actually didn't see me until the morning on Wednesday, when I was doing the last few rounds on a crocheted baby hat for him. And so it's not here, but I can show you guys a quick picture on Ravelry. So I'm having a very easy time, even though I paused there for a long time, thinking about, is that the last thing I finished? So I'm going to try really hard this year. I fell off the wagon of putting projects on Ravelry. So as I finish things, I'm trying really hard to put them on Ravelry and make notes about them.
That's good.
I mean, one of the most valuable things about Ravelry is just to be your own personal...
I am really particular about that, and I upload everything I possibly can. I document everything.
So I'm trying.
I'm lazy. I need to do better.
I have been very bad about it, and I never ever was very good about it.
Yeah.
Ever. Anyway.
But you know how much you rely on other people doing that?
Yeah.
I am super great at preaching to others how useful that is.
Yeah.
And how, you, as a customer, you should do that.
Right.
So I took some of the self-striping Serdar baby yarn, and I just did like a little top-down half double crochet.
Yeah.
Little bobblies.
And then I did bobbles on the last row. I would have liked to do... couple rounds of single crochet through the back loop, so it had like a little rolly brim, and then a pom-pom on top, of course.
It's cute.
So down to the last minute, and he was being so... He does this when he's in trouble. He is like so apologetic. It's like
annoying.
A wounded dog.
Yeah.
And who kicks a wounded dog? I don't, for all of my bad characteristics. I don't kick wounded animals. So I said, Kevin, I do really need a little more notice in the future. And even though it'll still be like this, I'll still probably be finishing it before you leave to work on the morning. But at least I've done it to myself, not you.
Right. There's a difference.
Yeah. And so I did finish that cute hat. And then I finished the thing I'm very most excited about, even though I'm really excited about this beautiful thing that is really damn close to Malabrigo's teal feather color.
Yep.
With a little icing and cherries on top. I finished a enormous siege stitch scarf.
Yep.
In Collinette 0.5, 5 hanks of Collinette 0.5, and then I put fringe on it. I'm pretty sure it's 10 feet long with the fringe.
Jeez.
Because it's
like a Lenny Kravitz scarf.
Yeah, I know. After that picture,
it wraps for days.
There's a viral picture of Lenny Kravitz wearing like
an
elongated blanket as a scarf. And ever since I tagged Kaity and Karin in somebody's post of it, and I have been haunted by wanting that also. And so I took another part of Karen's Christmas present and made this enormous scarf. What's really special about it leads us to our topic for this this podcast, which is we had a dye party. Mm-hmm. And you may know from our Kickstarter yarn and from our Harvest Party colorway that we are getting our feet wet with learning and experimenting with hand dyeing and hand painting yarn. I think all three of us are particularly fascinated with that which most indie dyers are doing, which is speckled yarns.
It's very elusive.
It is. Like this one is perfect to me.
Okay.
Like this is exactly
that's the teal feather.
The kind of speckling I wanted.
Okay.
It's consistent throughout the hank. Little, like 1 or 2 splotches of red, little splotches of black, and it's perfect. And that's the teal feather is dominant. There's nothing muddy about it, and it's just little splashes of all the color.
It's easy to get muddy.
Yeah. In my scarf, we all did something different. So I've been talking for a while. So, Kaity, what did you do at our dye party? And what were you going for?
I had the same 5 hanks of Collinette 0.5. And my inspiration was unicorn. So I had a couple pictures as inspiration, and my idea was like a white or like the cream colored background and trying to maintain some of the cream colored background with like maybe a hot pink and like a bright green and like rainbow speckles. That was my idea. And I have the yarn so we can refer to it.
Let's see it.
So it still has some of its cream background.
Absolutely.
It's got a lot of pink and purple because I really love that. What is it? Purple Pop is that color?
Purple Pop is insane.
What a great color that is.
The spot it touches on the yarn is purple. And then as it diffuses through the strand of yarn, this pink comes through.
Yep.
And
it's just an amazing color.
Fabulous.
Yum, yum, yummy.
So it's got a neon green. It's got lots of pink and purple. It's got some blue. It's not necessarily speckled as I thought it was going to be, but
it does have.
I've been following the tag speckled yarn on Instagram for about a year, and that is in the category of speckled yarn.
Yeah, but it's not what I envisioned it to be. I still love it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's just not what you had in your mind at the time.
I posted a picture of my finished yarn on my Instagram page. And my aunt asked me one day at dinner, she was like, so that yarn you dyed, you're making something for Ameren, right? My 4-year-old niece. Because she's like, adding pink and purple are her 2 favorite things in the world, and rainbows. And I was like, I probably should, but I'm not going to.
It's not appropriate yarn for a 4-year-old.
No.
I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. You could dye something else.
I could use that for inspiration.
Because we will be doing more.
Yeah.
I cast on a little scarf in my yarn. And it's just a single color brioche. But look how funny it is that, like,
that
the skinny
is so weird.
Parts of the yarn line up. and the chunky parts of the yarn, because it's a thick and thin yarn.
Wow.
And I think it's going to change on me because it's getting a little thicker up here. But like the columns, all the thin part of the yarn is lining up.
That's wild.
And all the thick part of the yarn is lining up. Isn't that nuts?
It is completely nuts.
So
I didn't
and that's
do
your
that.
swatch or that's a scarf?
This is the scarf I started, and I want to put like big giant fringe on it.
Yes.
So that's my idea.
Yes.
Or maybe like pom-poms on the ends or something.
Oh, I was thinking about pom-poms for mine. I am sorry that you guys are not going to see it in the flesh. I think maybe, Karin, you got to see my scarf last week.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't see your finished scarf.
And I'm hurtfully sorry that I did not bring it. I'm sure you will see it again in the future.
I'm sure I will. I saw it on your Instagram,
yes.
I think.
I'm very... So, Katie... tell us about what technique you actually use to like apply the dye.
So I laid my 5 skeins out next to each other. I mixed up dye baths dye pots of the pink and the green. So like big jars worth of dye in pink and green. And then I mixed up like salt shakers of the dry pigment for like 4 or 5 other colors that I wanted to use as speckles. So it's like just the dry pigment plus some citric acid in a in like a salt shaker to sort of sprinkle onto the yarn. So I laid out my skeins and I went through each one and I put pink in all the same spot with like a spoon. And then I put green all in the same spot. So I did like maybe 3 or 4 spots across the skein in pink and the same thing in the green. And then I took my salt shakers and I just went to town coloring with speckles the other couple colors that I chose, which is the purple pop, some kind of blue. I don't remember. I didn't take notes because I didn't think I would do it again. But now I'm like, oh, if I did this for Amber, this is like the perfect color for her.
I bet you could reproduce it.
I probably could. I don't remember exactly the colors I chose, but yeah. So I splotched a couple colors and then I sprinkled a whole bunch.
So something I found interesting with this yarn,
The Collinet.
with the Collinet 0.5 is like while we were applying the dye and while it was wet, the colors were really saturated and intense. Mm-hmm. And then when it dried, they're kind of diffused.
I think it's because it's a single ply and it's so puffy.
And
that it looked
thickness too,
right,
like absorbing the pigmentation.
Right.
Maybe
it sort of spreads out throughout that big thick portion. Some of the spots, like look at that, that's like super vibrant.
Yeah.
But then in other areas, it sort of like sinks in and it's not as. But it's, I'm very happy with it.
It's gorgeous.
I don't dislike any. Well, there's one skein that has something that doesn't match. I think it's brownish, like that orangey color. Mm-hmm. I got really heavy-handed on one of them.
Is
and it doesn't match the rest of them.
Was that saffron?
No, it was the golden
poppy.
Golden poppy.
Yeah, I think it's this skein.
Because I'm using
golden
that over
straw.
here.
I use a lot of golden straw.
I thought this was Tangelo. I'm showing them like a part that is like like a Tangelo color.
These are Dharma dyes, we should say, right?
Yeah, Dharma trading. Yep.
And okay, so Katie laid hers out. She basically painted and then sprinkled.
Yep.
And then we roll it in
plastic
wrap and
Glad press and seal. That's important because it's because cling wrap doesn't necessarily cling to itself or seal really well. The Glad press and seal clings to itself and seals sections off so they don't bleed onto others.
I don't think I was that careful this time about that.
But you did a slightly different technique.
So you wrap them up and then you microwave them.
Yeah.
Yep.
To heat up the color.
And I think we did
3 minutes.
5 for 3, like the 5 skeins for 3 minutes.
Yeah. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
So
and let them cool before you try to rinse
we dyed more than one thing, each of us. I think you kind of stuck in one technique.
I did because
but yours is very interesting what you did.
Yeah.
For my 0.5, I really loved what we did for our harvest party, and so I took per skein I took a 12-ounce mason jar, mixed up a mix of forest green and teal green from Dharma, and dipped half of the hank into the jar, and then the naked part I speckled with the same salt and pepper shaker mix of citric acid and pigment, and
the opposite end was in a different color.
No,
I think this time she only had one
half.
jar.
Oh, you're right.
This time.
And my inspiration was I get to see a lot of like beautiful floral bouquets, and there's one floral shop particularly who brings us like a little bouquet at work once a week that is our kind of like greets people every time they come in. And that's Passion Flowers here in Ventura, and she does these like kind of interesting exotic mixes. Anyway, so a couple of her bouquets have really kind of caught my eye. So I was trying to pull colors. So I use like pink and red and purples, and
like
then
an orangey color.
Yeah, Tangelo. It's so pretty. I wanted more yellow, so I was disappointed that the yellow disappeared and was not strong.
It's not a bold color, so you gotta use it heavily.
But I'm so happy with how it turned out. And an interesting thing, so I put all that yarn in the jar, and the 2 different color pigments I dissolved wicked through, so the water carried them through the strand at different rates.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way, even though you mixed the pigments, they still separated on you.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
It was so beautiful. Like, I'm very happy with what happened.
It's a learning curve.
Yeah. Some of the pigments we
don't know what we're doing.
Not at all. I know what colors I like.
Yeah.
I feel straight.
We have a vague idea of how it works.
Well, we have a chart of all the different colors from Dharma, and every time we get a new color of dye, we put like a little sticker or a dot to help keep track of what we've got. And I didn't notice really. I know some of them have like a P next to them. I'm like, whatever. Okay, the P means that they're metallicized, which means they have a little bit of a metallic. And the reason why I know this made a difference was because when I was mixing some of my dyes, as Anne gets up to go look, I made the mistake of adding citric acid to the dye, they had a chemical reaction where they fizzled and just.
I heard it.
You could hear the fizzle and puff
through.
Yeah.
And then that color was not at all the color I wanted it to be, so I ended up throwing it away and starting fresh, because acid and apparently the acid and the citric acid reacted with the metal, but I think that sometimes maybe the citric acid in our soaking water might affect some of, not to the same strength, but it might cause certain pigments to pull in differently.
I was using wicking,
yeah.
So that's the
but
water.
It could be the citric acid it was soaked in that caused that to happen.
To make it move through at a different pace.
Maybe.
There were certain parts of the...
Yeah.
Well, and some of the dyes are not just one color. Some of the dyes are a combination of colors.
Those aren't metallic, though.
But no, the one of them was.
Mine, neither of those 2 colors was. But, and I don't think it broke. Because citric acid, breaks things. So it breaks out the different colors that come together.
Yeah, it definitely broke.
So it probably broke.
It broke.
Yeah, that one definitely.
It broke it.
Exothermic reaction you were describing. Probably broke. And it was a really pretty color though.
But it was not the color I was going for.
But it was like a happy accident. I'm so happy with it having done that, because I couldn't have done that by design.
No, you wouldn't have gotten that effect.
I would have never even thought of it, honestly. Now I want to try to recreate that happening again.
So what did you do with your yarn, Karin?
Okay, so I actually dyed 10 skeins. It didn't feel like I was dyeing 10 skeins when I saw you guys finish some and then start new ones. So I had 5 skeins of a fingering called Nice and Round, and it's a very squishy one. And 5 skeins of a silk mohair blend, like Kid Silk Haze kind of thing, only undyed. And I literally paired them together. I took the a skein of each texture and ziplock them, or zip tie them together so that whatever I didn't want,
exactly the same.
Yeah, so I had pairs, because I love that.
That's really smart.
I love that pink sweater you have that has.
My cozy classic raglan.
That has that fuzzy element to it, but I wanted the colors to pair, and I didn't think I could recreate.
No, you would not have gotten the same.
No, I couldn't. So they're definitely paired, but how the silk mohair takes the dye is very different. Looks very. I mean, they clearly go together, but like some of the speckles, because I went really heavy on the speckles. The speckling on the mohair is much more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I do get more pops on the
That's
nice
a
and
gorgeous
round.
color.
Some of the colors, I just love how they came out. I started with the pistachio. I had some that were silver. Oh, this one. My darkest color was supposed to be a dark charcoal, and there's nothing really gray about it. It's like purples and blues of denim kind of thing, and it really was one color, but there's so many different shades because again, it was one of those composite colors that has all these different shades in it. So there's, I guess, some.
I wonder if the citric acid in the soaking water broke that charcoal, and now it's.
Yeah, but
so
you know what?
What do you do though? Because you have to have acid to set these.
Can you use vinegar? Because I've used vinegar before.
Yeah. We could
for other dyes. I don't know if that works with acid dye.
The pH balancing thing is probably.
That's probably the pH.
See, like I said, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, but
okay.
we're learning through doing.
Yes,
and I have a digital pH meter. Unfortunately, I did not look to calibrate it before we got here, so whatever.
I mean,
so
but
so
then
I
you
had
wouldn't
different.
have gotten that
No.
necessarily.
No.
So
This
I
is
knew that
perfect.
I wanted to make my own kind of fade that went from purple to the silvery gray with hints of lime green and I guess a little bit of pink. I guess no, it's not like a yellow
color.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. So I took
Is that champagne?
I sprinkled everything has champagne sprinkled on it. So champagne
Nuts.
for everybody.
She shook the bottle, she popped the cork, and sprayed it on all of us.
Well, I feel like I had one. If I sprinkled that on all the shades, it would be something to tie them all together to make it cohesive. I don't know if I actually achieved that. It seemed like it. I don't see it so much on some of my purples.
But they feel like they could all live together.
Yeah, they definitely feel like they belong together. My favorite is the lighter purple. Is this lilac? It's called lilac, and it has, especially in the kids in the fuzzy, the silky mohair one, it's got this pale orchid pinky purple and a more of a bluer purple, but we're all in pastels. And the haze is so pretty.
It's beautiful.
So my idea is that I'm going to start with one pairing and hold them together. And then I will change the solid, or the solid fat, but keep the first...
Oh, and interchange them?
The first mohair, and kind of let it do this gradual fade where it's not just... I'm afraid I don't want them to be stripy.
Right.
So to avoid being stripy, I'm going to exchange the mohair portion of it, so it's a very subtle change.
So like halfway through the green you would switch to the next mohair
and maybe not halfway, maybe just like an inch or so it becomes this like, okay, this color has changed somehow.
That sounds very exciting.
But and maybe I was gonna do a sweater. I might design a sweater to go with it.
Did you post a picture of that?
I don't think I have.
You should, so people can see it.
Okay, I might wait till daylight so I have better lighting.
No, do it now.
You have until Monday when this episode goes live to do it.
Alrighty.
So go to Karen's Instagram right now as you're listening to this and look at the picture.
Yes, because
now
I'm no pressure. I guess Sunday I'll be doing this.
So
I'm gonna swatch it.
Karin had a lot of work ahead of her with this yarn.
So
I mean, actually,
but really do.
You did the
time.
most. You did 10 skeins.
I know.
And
it's
all
weird to think
in separate colors.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay,
we did 5 skeins all the same color.
Yeah.
Oh, each colorway had 2 main colors and then 3 speckles.
That's a lot of work.
So, and with the exception of the one champagne that was for everybody, they pretty much...
After she sprayed it all over the room, we only had this little tiny glass to each take a sip.
I did not share my champagne with you. So I guess that's
for everybody.
4. Well, 4. Wow, that was a lot of colors. So I had like 20 different colors.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I had 4 colors for, not counting the champagne.
Yeah.
I had 4 colors for each one of these pairs. 4 times 5 is 20. Yeah. So 21 colors.
Which is the amount
No
age
wonder
you have to be to drink champagne.
Well, there you go.
Full circle. So then Katie made her beautiful unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I dyed a skein of blue because I had been playing around with natural dyeing at home, and I dyed this beautiful yellow color, and I wanted to pair it with something, so I picked a blue that I thought would... I'll show you guys.
Yeah, I want to see.
So this is my marigold yellow.
gorgeous.
Oh, with real marigolds?
From actual
With real
marigold
marigolds.
petals.
Oh, that's
And then
pretty.
that's the blue.
Did
Does it
you
smell
like
good?
a nice soap or?
It might be my wool wash.
It smells great.
No. I don't know what it is.
It smells good.
I
Sniff.
don't know. It does smell good though.
Pass that
Should
around.
we
We're
breathe into
sniffing.
the microphone?
Yeah.
Sniffing.
Do you want to smell it?
This smells different. I wonder if it's the marigold.
I dyed this at home and I dyed that here. And I have wool wash here.
That's plain.
I don't think I washed that one with a wool wash.
It smells good.
It does.
It might be the marigolds.
It might be. They were a little bit stinky. I've learned with natural dyeing you get odors that you didn't expect. So my house smelled a little funky for a couple hours. But my dad was the only one home, and he had a cold, so he couldn't smell through his nose anyway. So it was
Oh,
fine.
that's good.
So I wanted a blue to accompany it, so I dyed this blue, not having the yellow with me. I was just like, I'll pick a blue. And I thought, and then I swatched it. This was for that class I was teaching today. Because I was going to use them for color work, but I don't love them together.
Oh, really? I do.
Have you taken a black and white picture?
Yes, I think it's because the blue is semi-solid, that it's not as striking as I hoped it would be. So I might over dye the blue a little. It either needs to be darker or lighter, and I think I'm going to take it darker.
Yeah, I think it needs to go darker.
I don't know if it's that I'm in love with the sample that you made, because that is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Or that because I do love the blue and yellow together.
See,
I love the blue and yellow, but I think the blue, like if it was more like a navy or something, it just needs to be a little deeper, I think.
It's
I agree with you.
I posted a picture of these two
It
skeins
just
on my
needs
Instagram.
it to be a smidge dark, because the parts here that are a little darker I think the yellow's going to pop a little better.
Yeah, it's beautiful and I'm happy with it, but it could be better. So it's not going to be for this sweater, but it will be for a sweater once I perfect the blue a little bit. So that's what I dyed on our...
It's okay.
It's okay. It's not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
So I dyed that blue at our...
The great thing is you can dye it some more.
Right. I'm going to throw it on something a little bit darker.
It's a great picture. I have Karen's
hand touching it like a claw.
Yeah.
So that's so what else did you dye?
So I did two other dyeing things. I mean, I've already talked about my...
This was just on the same night.
Yeah. On my very close teal feather match. So how I got that color is... Because those colors didn't break. It was the wicking. Because I took the leftovers...
I mixed two colors for this blue and they didn't break.
Yeah.
It's cohesive.
I took... the yarn... The colors I was describing, how the two pigments moved through the yarn at a different rate.
Mm-hmm.
I did not exhaust the dye in those jars, and I hate to waste it. So Karin bought I was able to do a direct heat. Like, is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Like direct
with
heat.
A burner.
We have an induction burner, a single burner.
So, so I was able to make a dye bath, and I poured I evened it out to equal amounts, and I had 350-gram skeins of wool of the Andes, and I poured that into the pan, and then I put the hank into the pan and waited for that to exhaust into the hank. And then I took Tangelo, which is like it's really a pinky orangey red.
Yeah.
And put it on top of the teal feather.
Almost corally.
Yeah. That's a good description of it. And then I took True Black, and I just a light hand.
Oh, it does very light, because it doesn't look like black.
The Tangelo and Kitty Corner from each other, and the True Black Kitty Corner from each other. And then I reported I only did one hank at a time. I repeated it for all three. And actually, I didn't speckle the third one. I washed
on purpose?
It. No.
Oh.
I washed it and I laid it out to dry. I'm like, that has no speckles.
Whoops.
So then another day I came back and respeckled it. It ended up darker. So for the cowl I just finished, I did the two balls at the same time.
Because there's nothing obvious about it,
Right
so you've
here.
really blended it.
Before I decided to do it, there's about 8 rows of garter stitch that are just darker. And then I was like, no more of that. No, Anne. And so it's almost like they're all the same dye lot. Which is a good way to handle your hand painted yarns, is to do, 1 or 2 or 3 rows or rounds of a ball and then switch off. And then I have my big sweater from the Pearl Soho sweater I want to make. And part of the challenge of what I want to do with it is take that naked wool and dye it something interesting. But I don't want like wild and crazy sweater. So I have no idea. I just know I want gray with speckles. And I've been saving things on Instagram that I liked and were inspiring for about a year. And I made a very pretty yarn. But it is absolutely not what I wanted. But I just wanted to see what all these colors look like when they touched this cream colored yarn. And it's
like a swatch.
It's a swatch of a color swatch on yarn. It's like, I think I used every purple we have, I feel like.
So neon purple's in there?
No.
Is
There's purple
here?
pop. Yeah. It's Plum Daddy, Purple Pop, Intense Iris, Amethyst, Navy, which comes out very purple. And
is this navy?
I think so, yeah. And she points to a very purple spot. But it's definitely a blue purple. Tangelo and golden honey.
Poppy.
No, honey. Yeah.
There's golden straw.
Yeah.
And then there's golden poppy. There's 2
It must be
different
golden
golds.
poppy. It's golden poppy.
Golden poppy
It
is a little
golden poppy.
oranger.
Yeah, it's definitely golden
straw
poppy.
is very...
That's that color.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And it's gorgeous, and I could never recreate it again. And the base was Twilight Gray. And
dyed on like a natural color base.
yeah.
Yarn.
And that wasn't right. So then I was like, this is nowhere near what I want. I have to edit the colors I'm using.
Is this Twilight Gray? That's why it's so blue.
Yeah, you used Twilight.
And that's why it's so blue and not charcoal like I thought it would be.
But
It's
you
very different on yours.
inspired, because it didn't. Well, you don't really see any of the gray. I don't think. Like
You do. It's there.
It's there.
It's present. For
In the
sure.
I can
You
see
can't
it
really
in
point
the
to it,
stitches.
but it's in there.
No, I can point to the stitch. Oh, it's the purple. See, I keep pointing to these ones that look gray, but actually it's the
That
purple.
could be that. No, that's purple.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's but what I'm saying, the twilight, as in the twilight sky. That's blue.
So
I don't know where the gray part
I
comes
have
from, but
2 kind of ugly things to show you. You guys
Let's
should
see
talk
the ugly.
about where you got your marigolds for just 2 seconds.
Okay.
I gotta bring you the orange. I gotta remember to
Yeah.
bring that.
I dyed yarn with avocado pits, and then when we were in Lone Pine up near Independence, there's a little lavender ranch out in the mountains that you can go visit,
Ooh.
and they have goats and sheep, and it's a very fun place to visit.
Can you dye with lavender flowers?
I don't know, but they had dried
be fun.
marigolds for sale, just like a bag of them for $5, and I thought, oh, I'll buy those.
Do you
So
guys
that's where I
have
got my
pine needles
marigolds.
up in Independence?
I
Can you
don't
dye
know.
with pine needles?
I don't know.
That would smell so amazing.
You make pine needle tea if you're starving in the woods.
Oh,
I've seen that on survival shows.
Yeah, what you know what bugs go on pine needles? I
And
can't drink my tea
Same
now
thing they
'cause of
do
the
in
bug.
tea. Yeah.
that's not ugly.
Well, it's still not what I wanted. So then I'm done dyeing. Our dye party's over. We
She's
cleaned
dead.
up. Katie's leaving. We usually have to meet like after I'm done with work or we're done with a class.
So this all starts after 8:00 at night.
Yeah. So
And I go to bed at like 9:00
Yeah.
at night.
Except on dye nights.
Harvest party, we had a very tight time frame from when we got the yarn to when it needed to be done, and we had to do it all in one night. And we did 24 skeins.
That sounds right.
Yeah, in one night. And
3 a.m.
it was 3 a.m. when
I
we
left at 2 a.m.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
was
no,
you.
Sorry.
So Karin and I are wrapping up on our dye party because we were having a party. We weren't working. And she's like, I was like, yeah, isn't it nice to like not leave exhausted? And it's like, it's so early. And
It's only midnight.
no, it was 11.
Oh, it's 11.
Katie left
That's
at
right,
like
it's
about
11.
11. But it was early, and I wasn't
For us.
exhausted, and it was really quite fun. So it was nice to like.
It was fun because we're doing our own. We each got to be.
The
we got
others
to
have been
explore
fun.
Yeah.
Yes, but this was more. This was a different experience.
Color
It was creative.
exploration. It was creative. We're each doing a slightly different thing, but
So knowing what this color swatch Hank did for me is I knew what the colors were going to look like when they hit this yarn. So that was good. But I knew it wasn't the recipe I want. So I came back on my own, and I don't have a lot of this yarn. It seemed like it kept appearing at Tuesday morning, and now I can't get it anymore because I kept thinking I should get a couple Hanks to practice on. But now
Is this that Shepherd's?
Yeah, Shepherd's Choice, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
I've seen that there.
It's a natural DK weight, 252 yards in 100 grams. I am applying grist again because the Pearl Soho sweater, I think, is like 164 yards per 100 gram worsted. And I'm going for 252 DK. But I got gauge in these swatches I have here, and I wouldn't want a sweater any thicker than this.
They kind of look close to worsted.
Well, it's not brioche. It's the knit one below, but which is technically the same structure. Yeah. It's actually
it's a little tighter structure, but
and it's easier to execute this structure.
Yeah, it is.
So
it results in the exact same fabric.
Yeah. So I took 50 grams. I split one hank in 50 grams. Tried out Twilight Gray.
That's pretty.
There's
so purple though, right?
It's not. It doesn't. Twilight Gray does not look on the yarn the way it looks on the color block that they give us.
Now, I think Nicole Frost is working on a project with Dharma.
The what?
To show Nicole Frost of Frost Yarns is working on a project to. I missed what she said the project was. She's been working on it for like 6 months or more, but she keeps showing swatches of the dye on their dyes on the yarn.
Okay.
And so I think she's working on like this magnum opus of
what
they look like on the yarns. So I made this purple one. I took the colors that I thought I wanted from my initial swatch, which I've narrowed it down to 4. Tried them out again.
It's really pretty,
muddy and purple, and it's pretty, but it's not what I want.
But you've almost got between the 4. You almost have a gradient.
I don't want that either.
But that's what you want.
Thank you. But thank you. Almost. So then you inspired me, Karin, to try this gray, platinum gray.
Platinum.
Because I do not want this purple gray at all.
And platinum really is a gray. Yeah. It's not.
It's a more brown toned gray, which is what I wanted. Because the purple of Twilight Gray is too similar to the speckles I want.
Yeah.
So they aren't showing.
They get lost.
And I was very disappointed that the navy was not the blue I was looking for, because it was like a no-brainer to me that navy would be this rich blue I was looking for. But you use baby blue eyes. Did you use baby blue eyes in this too?
This is baby blue eyes and one of the grays. I don't remember.
Did I use baby blue eyes?
I thought
someone else did.
Oh, you have it as a speckle.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's there it is as a speckle.
So I pulled baby blue eyes out and took the navy away.
Is that what that is?
I like it.
That is what I want.
That's a good color.
So
it's almost a royal, but not quite.
So it's true blue.
Yeah.
Baby blue eyes is true blue, guys.
There you go.
So if you're looking to make something the color of 2020, Pantone color 2020. So I have settled on platinum gray, baby blue eyes, iridescent iris, tangelo, and golden poppy.
What's that green?
I just tried it because it was there. Okay. Spearmint. I decided I didn't want spearmint.
No, I was going to say I would leave that out.
I had a spearmint and a
That's
speckle.
A good green, though.
And then I was
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Can I look at
it?
Yeah.
But it kind of
You can have that and you can have this.
No, I don't want it.
Don't. Okay. Give them back then. You can keep it if you want it.
I'm keeping
it.
It's beautiful, but I can see it takes a lot of trial and error.
Takes over. Spearmint kind of takes over, I feel like.
Well, I used it super lightly.
I know. I started to use it, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna.
I would love to just take some yarn and dye it spearmint.
The spearmint is the most Irish of greens to me.
Which we don't even have the Kelly green.
No,
it's pretty.
I don't
Kelly
know
green
if we need it. Okay, so it was done. It was decided.
Okay.
So I took one of the skeins. You can have it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's all yours.
As I'm quietly grabbing the
have
yarn
this
and
one,
taking
and you
it
can't have this
for my own.
Okay. So
I have adopted it.
It's all yours. So I have committed to this one.
Okay.
So I'm showing.
I was hoping that was what the one was going to be.
Swatch. My color swatch is gorgeous.
This is the closest.
This is what I want.
Yay!
It's not what I envisioned still.
But when you envision the sweater as a whole,
It's
going to be a gray sweater.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. It's going to be a gray sweater.
It's going to be a gray sweater with a lot of color.
And ultimately, I wanted it to not be boring to knit.
No, it's not. Whereas, like, this is a variegated, crazy colored sweater. This, as a big whole garment, is a gray sweater with a lot of pops.
That's what I wanted to
hear.
hear.
Are very subtle.
Yes, and that's what I wanted.
The pops
it's really pretty.
Don't scream over the gray.
Yeah. That's,
okay, you have until Monday to post a picture of this.
I'm going to post these against each other. And you know what's funny? Another thing, and this is what actually I really want to say in my Instagram post too, so sorry if you see it 2 times and see it and hear it. You know, like when you admire somebody else's work and you're like, I want to try that technique and make that same kind of art, or write the same way, or sing the same way, or whatever, you're like, play an instrument the same way. And then in your hands, it's good, but it's different. And you never like achieve that thing of what you admire. Now, not to say I will never speckle in the way that I admire other specklers, but I came to understand, like, this is beautiful, and this is what this technique at this time looks like in my hands.
And someone else might look at it and want to recreate that, and you're their inspiration for something, you know?
That'd be neat. So I'm very happy with it, and it's like, just
have you dyed the sweaters amount yet?
Not yet. So I'm going to be very systematic to repeat this. I took a picture of how I speckled, and then I flipped and speckled
the backside.
Yeah, and so I'm going to mix the dye solutions for each hank of the exact amount that worked out, and then I'm going to try to speckle them in the same fashion. And of course, with hand painted yarns, if I don't get consistency, I can run 2 balls at the same time. But
so we dyed with, we heat set with microwave.
Yes.
And we heat set, and you actually got to heat set with
the burning.
Yeah, I got to play with your toy.
So what
you
did
haven't yet.
I know. But what were some of the differences? I feel like at least when you microwave, like, I knew when I speckled, I really couldn't see the speckle.
It's sort of a surprise.
It was more of a, okay, I don't know really what I'm going to get till it comes out of the microwave. But maybe you don't really necessarily
in the past,
like that
though.
surprise.
Like when we...
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't... But we were speckling in a very different way. Like in the past, we have like speckle painted.
Yeah.
In our harvest party, the speckles are
very subtle.
Not visible.
Very subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. In our Kickstarter yarn, it is gorgeous, and it's a feature.
One of my sweaters to finish this year is the sweater I started in my Kickstarter yarn.
Nice. I still haven't fully in my heart committed to what sweater that's going to be.
Yeah.
I'm still like re-offering it to the knitting gods every once in a while of like, what could
just
all
needs
this
enough
yarn
time.
be?
I have a sweater's quantity. Some of it I've incorporated into my Starflake Mystery Knit-Along.
I can't wait to see that finish.
Yeah, and actually,
like I don't want to pressure you into finishing your project.
I've got 2 Stephen West things that with fabulous yarns. One of them from vacation from Amsterdam, from his very own shop, that I need to continue working on.
Okay, so I can't wait to see that.
So that I will post the swatch with the yarn tomorrow.
So on another thing I did play with dyeing is like, I don't know, is it the laziest way? Is it a childlike way to dye? I needed fringe for my beautiful 0.5
did you dye those?
So I got some Patton's Classic Roving, and I mixed little dye baths, and I pre-soaked them, but I pre-soaked them in their hank shape, twisted, and then I dyed them in
In the twist.
In the twist, and I got like really cool
I was wondering how you got that technique.
Yeah, because it wasn't enough water to cover it either. And I took the 4 colors that were most dominant that showed through. I took the Tangelo, Purple Pop, Iridescent Iris,
and some other 4th
Plum
color.
Daddy. No, it was Pink Orchid.
Oh.
And I made the fringe out of that, and it's so perfect. Everything about it's so perfect. The yarn came out exactly with the feeling I wanted from it, and the fringe kills it.
So I have a question. If I wanted to dye like as close to a solid color as possible, do you think that's like a dye pot situation? Because that's what I've done with the marigold, is like one big pot that they're all in, and you just stir it everywhere. It is super solid.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at those like solution mixes where you like take into consideration the weight of the dye stock,
the weight of goods.
Yeah, and then you take a percentage of that.
Yeah, I have to do some research.
Yeah,
because I have a base yarn I want to dye. I'm thinking Purple Pop is the color for my niece for the sweater.
Yes,
that I was talking about. So I want to dye a purple base color for a sweater, but I want it to be like as solid as I can get it.
So all the skeins will be consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a big.
You got your big pot.
Yeah, I'll have to bring it in and put it on the burner and see what happens.
Yeah.
One of the things I think I want to do is I want to see what the pH of our water is. Because I know that there's certain pHs that give you different results.
Yes.
And so I need to calibrate our pH tester so we can get an accurate testing of what we're actually dealing with. Because, hey, we're flying blind. We're like, whatever it is, we are going to add just a percentage of citric acid.
I'm writing down most of my recipes. I didn't write down the yarn I made for you guys last Christmas. I'm very disappointed in myself for that. Oh well.
This is so pretty.
Yes. Karin is swatching with her beautiful yarn right now. She's made her first color transition while swatching.
And you can just start to see the very lightness, but this one.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Feel how soft
we should get to our obsessions.
Yes.
Who wants to go first?
Karin?
Are you obsessed with anything?
Glee.
She's still obsessed with Glee.
She started Glee.
I started Glee.
That was last month's obsession too.
But it's kind of morbid because now I'm watching it for the season because I know one of the main guys died in real life, and so now I know it sounds horrible. I'm sorry, but I'm watching it to see how they incorporate that into the show because I'm like,
I remember that was a huge deal when it happened. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but I mean, I never get into shows until they've at least been off the air.
It's not
several
the
years.
show for me because I tried watching it when it was on and I was like, I don't like it. But
well, I
know a lot of people did really enjoy it.
I skipped it.
I'm enjoying it because I can I know the songs, but I can fast forward. I just I just fast forward through the parts. So I'm cutting about a third of it out.
Do you have Disney Plus?
Yes, 2 of my sons have it. I have only watched The Mandalorian once. That's all I've gotten to watch.
There's a show called it's hosted by Kristen Bell.
Yeah,
you would love it. It's like musical theater nerd kids.
Oh,
and it's some sort of like reality show.
They get to restage.
A reality show?
Yeah, they like redo shows that they did in high school or something.
Oh,
it's like right up your alley.
I love it.
I've not watched it.
It's Schadenfreude. I love it.
So who's doing it? Are the kids? Is it kids doing it, or is it adults recreating?
Okay, so Karin, what was a play that you were in high school? No, what was a play you were in high school?
Oh, which
musical.
one?
Must be in a musical.
I was in Little Abner.
Okay.
They made me be the old woman with the blacked out teeth. I couldn't be the pretty one.
Guess what?
I get to be the Daisy.
You're gonna reprise your role of the old woman with blacked out teeth.
No.
And they bring in Broadway Broadway professionals, choreographers.
Okay.
Musical director, and then they restage your play with that caliber in like a week.
Oh, you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather do play.
Anything but be the character you just said you didn't like being.
Well, no, we did another one that was like it was called Cantina, and it was I was one of the 3 Andrews sisters. So I would like to reprise that role.
Okay, there you go. So all your castmates who can come back. I've been out of
I wish I could remember who they were.
I've been out of high
I know
school
a
for
couple
21 years. I didn't do any musical theater. I just did Our Town.
83, I
So
guess
the-
36 years. Dang, I'm old.
Fascinating.
I don't
too.
feel that old.
You've almost been out of high school my age.
Wow.
Almost. I'm a little older.
Are you
It's
sure?
very funny.
I was in high school when you were
up your
born.
alley.
Yeah.
I really could have been
I
your
was
mother.
a toddler. I know. You could biologically be my mother.
Weird.
Yeah.
Just, okay, that's so random. But not.
Yeah.
So instead of being sisters, maybe we were,
I'm your lost daughter.
Maybe you're her like cool aunt.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I mean, I like it. I like you better than my answer, I should
you.
stop just in case
Yeah.
anyone related to finds
okay.
this.
Wow.
You already know, Karin.
Yeah, I do.
So, what are you obsessed with?
I've been sitting on this obsession for weeks because I was like, "Oh, this is the perfect thing to talk about." I found this girl on YouTube, and she is a Chinese girl who lives in like rural China with her grandmother, and she uploads videos to YouTube, and some of them have English titles, some of them are in Chinese and I don't know what they say, but it doesn't matter. You should watch all of her videos. She, number one, has like a beautiful cinematographer, so all of her videos are like film quality production, and she films them herself. So she like sets up her tripod and shows you whatever she's doing. Most of the time there's no dialogue, and the thing she does is just like, it's supposed to be like slice of life of living in rural China.
Oh my gosh.
That's
So
so
some
cool.
things are like, most of her videos are cooking videos, and it's like, today we're making, whatever it is. But if you want to talk about from scratch, like you've never seen it, like you have seen this girl do it. So it's like, one episode she's making like duck egg sauce. So how do you start making duck egg sauce?
You get duck eggs.
To do what? To grow the ducks that are going to then lay the eggs that you're going to harvest later. So she has baby little ducklings.
You were right, though.
You were right.
You start with duck
You
eggs.
do start with duck eggs. But then she grows them into little duckies.
Oh my God.
And then they shows her like harvesting the duck eggs. And then she like goes out into her giant garden and harvests all this stuff. And anyway, the one you should start with is the one where she makes. Of China. She's amazing.
No.
She could do anything.
Way better. Sorry.
Yeah.
Way better
There's
than
an
Martha
episode
Stewart.
where she makes her own cloak. So she.
Wait, how did that clip from the book go?
Yeah, it was like that. So she goes to. She like takes her little backpack and she like walks out into the mountains to find her flock of sheep. She harvests the wool from her flock of sheep. She takes a little lammy home with her to like be her little buddy. And she washes it all. And she cards all the wool. And then she goes into her garden and she harvests all these berries. And then it shows her like mushing up all the berries. And she dyes it. And then she hangs it up. And then it was an interesting technique that I've never seen. I'm sure it's a thing. But she like makes all these really long braids. So like she's braiding. Well, she spins the yarn first, right?
Yeah.
She braids it. So there's all these long braids that then she takes a sewing needle and sews the braids together to create fabric. So it's like you line the braids up next to each other and you're like intertwining them.
So
kind of like a rug. Like
kind of,
rug.
yeah, like that. So she hangs them all up and she sews it all together and she like makes a hood, and then it shows her like walking out into the snow in her beautiful purple cloak with her little lamb friend. Anyway,
A little lamby friend.
if you ever just need to like chill out and not think too hard, you should watch one of her videos. They are exquisite.
What is her name?
I don't know how you are supposed to pronounce it, but it's Liziqui. We call her Liziqui. I don't think that's how you say it. Liziqui. You should look her up on YouTube.
Liziqua.
It's something like it's there's almost like a T sound to it, because I've heard someone say like Liziki, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, but you should watch it. She did another one where she made a comforter. Sometimes they're not in English, so I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, but you're on the journey. So it's like today there was one where she harvested. Well, first she planted seeds to grow, like literally from scratch. She planted the seeds to grow the cotton bushes, to harvest the cotton. Then she had this like big instrument that she was using to like, it was like a bow, and she would like strum the bow and then while it was vibrating, put it next to the cotton, and it would sort of like whip it up. And and the whole time I'm like, what the heck are we making? I don't even know what's going on because it's not in English. So she's fluffing up all the cotton, and then she has this like big giant
what's
frame.
separating the seeds out?
No, she's already picked through it and cleaned it.
Gotcha.
So it's like puffing up the cotton into roving essentially.
Okay.
And then she has this big giant frame that's the size of her bed, and she goes back and forth with thread, and she like weaves it back and forth and then up and down and then sideways to make like a bed. She puts the cotton down. She does the threading thing again.
Wow.
And then she like couches it, like quilts between the layers. And then she makes a cover for it. It's like unbelievable. So James and I have been watching her nonstop. She's also adorable. And my favorite thing is when she makes some like that comforter she made for her. She's got like the cutest little grandmother. And so sometimes it's like it's dinner time and then grandma comes out and sits with her and then it just shows them like eating dinner together. And it's the best. So that's my obsession.
I gotta look at that.
What was
She's the best.
I had a question about, you also recommended How Not to Travel podcast.
Oh yeah, that was it's by a Instagram account I follow called How Not to Travel Like a Basic Bitch. But she has a podcast in there, like 10-minute episodes, and it's all about like conscious
Mistakes
and
people
sustainable traveling.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's like things you should know about being respectful to various cultures and stuff. That's another thing.
Another topic, but
Yeah.
but
But
I
it is
like
a good
it.
one. Anyway, that's what I'm obsessed with.
So that's what all.
Leezy.
I am obsessed with something I avoided for a while when it was new.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, 3 years old. The Young Pope. It's an HBO show starring Jude Law, and I find him kind of annoying.
I find him kind of hot.
He's so talented. Well, you know, he's a wife cheater, so he might take you. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
That. I don't know that much about him.
Oh,
Except
yeah. I'm sorry.
Bummer.
Sorry. What's her face with the pretty one blue eye, one green eye? She's a pretty blonde British actress. Anyway.
2 different eyes?
He cheated on his wife with her a long time ago. I shouldn't know.
There's no good men in the world. I shouldn't support any of them.
Well, because Ewan McGregor is like his
I can't stand
buddy.
Ewan McGregor.
Well, it's his buddy, and they like roomed together with I think it's Ewan McGregor's brother. The three of them were roommates, and he was out. They raised hell. Well, the brother's like in the British Air Force and being a stand-up guy. But Ewan McGregor was like married to his wife for a long time, and now he
didn't cheat on her, but he did leave his wife for his younger co-star.
Okay.
I don't know if he cheated on her.
You don't think he cheated on her?
I don't know, but I do know he left his wife from a long time for his younger
to
co-star.
sacrifice
so then it's like, well, we can't like Ewan McGregor anymore.
That's kind of where I am.
Yeah.
I can't like him anymore. But anyway, Jude Law is insanely talented.
He really is.
And so I usually come around. So I watched The Young Pope, and he's very beautiful. Have you watched it?
No.
He's very beautiful.
I don't think that show's for me.
It's fair. I'm I was raised Catholic, and it's a very interesting look at the Vatican. And just it's very surreal. Like it's a surreal show, and it was fantastic.
I remember seeing like the trailer for it when it was new.
If you ever, I think it's actually probably a very accurate portrayal of how the clergy and how the Catholic Church work, because it's a very like authoritarian, like governed micro nation in a sense.
Right.
And so it's interesting. I think it's the way a lot of people wish that a pope would act, but for good or for bad. But now I watched it because the new pope is coming, which makes John Malkovich the pope.
Ooh.
And if it's going to be like as surrealistic
I was gonna say
as the first one, Jude Law
the only person you could put in there would be John Malkovich.
Jude Law is still in.
I'm sorry. I
the
can't
new
wrap my
pope.
head around John Malkovich as the Pope.
I couldn't wrap my head
Wow.
around Jude
Jude
Law
Law.
as the Pope.
Yeah.
But it is amazing. It's
Well.
really good. So even if you're not Catholic, I still think lots of people will enjoy it. And then the other thing I'm obsessed with is Marianthe Yarn.
What?
She's a German indie dyer,
Ooh.
and she gets one speckle of color uniquely and then one unique, distinct speckle of color, and then another, and then another, and it's that beautiful gray I wished I could achieve. And one speckle of purple pop, and one speckle of...
Wow.
I'm going to bring it up on Instagram.
So they're very tidy.
It's so...
Very exact. Or something.
I don't know how she could do it. I really don't. Like...
It's witchcraft.
Like, look at how...
Oh, yeah. Like one little yellow stitch.
Oh, they're exactly a stitch.
Yeah.
Well,
It's beautiful.
wow.
I don't want to talk about what I'm doing with my yarn.
She might do that
fabric
with Gorgum.
purchasing.
Maybe she does it with Gorgum.
Maybe.
Because the colors
it
don't
doesn't
run.
move.
It doesn't move and it doesn't run.
Oh, that might be worth trying.
So at some
I have something
point,
that you're welcome to play.
I'm going to indulge in something from her.
Yeah.
It's too much to take.
It's beautiful.
Marianthe yarns.
Cool.
It's gorgeous. Look at this one. Look at this one. It's like confetti cake.
That's really cute.
Oh, but you're right. They are perfectly...
But it might be the Gorgon, though.
The Gorgum. G-U-A-R.
Yeah. Because her colors are not moving.
And what Gorgum is like a starch, and you mix the dye and make this basically like a dye paste. And what happens is they keeps the colors are just thick enough that they don't bleed into each other. They once the yarn has that color, they don't accept other colors on that spot.
But how tedious must it be
to place tiny speckles?
Yeah.
Is her yarn expensive? Like, does it reflect that it would be a lot of labor?
Maybe it's a little more, if it even is.
Maybe it's the pointillism of it's stippling.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
How is she doing it, Karin? No, it's 20 euros.
It's witchcraft.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Well, we're like right at the 2-hour mark, so we should probably wrap
Holy
it up.
Holy cow. No wonder we're getting tired.
Good night.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, that's gorgeous, Karin.
Her swatch is beautiful. So this episode will come out February 3rd, and we just finished recording a book club episode of The Witches of New York that will come out the 3rd Monday of the month. I don't remember what the date is. It's like the 16th or something. I shouldn't guess because
17th.
There you go.
Wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
So the 17th there will be another podcast for The Witches of New York, which means you have time to listen to it before then. We all highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
maybe Karin will finish it.
Karin hasn't finished it yet.
I'm not allowing myself to start on the new book until I finish this book, and I'm not going to keep going on my other books till I finish my homework.
I had one more thought.
But we're tired, so
We'll save it for next time.
whatever.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
Just a PSA. This is a leap year.
Yep.
We get one more day on the calendar, so I just wish you all that you enjoy that extra day and do something special for yourself for that one more day.
They should make that a rule that you get that day off.
I think it should be a holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to cost so much. One day every 4 years.
It is a Saturday.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll be here, and I will be in good spirits. So,
all right then. Well, we'll see you in a month then.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I want to put the bloopers at the end again.
Coming to you from the...
I just told you to go and have a bite of food in my house.
this part stays.
Sorry. Let me finish my bite of my brownie.
Okay. All part of the intro.
But I figured I should probably talk after you do the intro. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Really.
Coming to you from the Strings and Things studio in Ventura, California, this is the Strings Unraveled podcast.
I think we have to go again because Karen's slurping her teeth.
So, shall we all slurp our teeth?
Wait, I'm not slurping
We're
mine.
taking a bite of Katie's brownie, and then we're slurping something that won't hurt us.
On purpose to try to trip you up. And then I almost lost
I wasn't even looking
And
at
then I
you.
lost it.
I know. You were trying so hard
Everybody
to giggle.
take a deep breath.
God, there's a bug.
There's a bug in your teeth.
What's it doing?
Back The backstroke.
Oh, as it
Ew. Yep. Oh my god.
Please be dead.
I don't think he's alive.
The last thing they do before they die is poop.
Well, how will I? That's.
Oh, I know.
It blends into the tea leaves.
No, I promise
Oh my
you
God.
that there's poop in there.
You were
This
terrible.
is gonna be a real punchy one.
It always is when it's the second.
We used all of our intellect already.
True.
Okay.
Okay, let's go for the third time.
This is early.
It's
It's
8:30. I'd like
Forget
to be
about
heading
all
home
the
by
day.
10.
Forget all the day we've had already.
Okay, that's out of my system. Maybe.